Raleigh, North Carolina, 2001. The summer nights were heavy and still, but inside a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, something sinister had shattered the calm forever. Olivia Mercer, 24, a kind-hearted nurse known for her soft smile and quiet determination, vanished without a trace. Her neighbors remembered the day vividly. Her car still parked out front, her keys on the kitchen counter, the faint smell of coffee lingering in the air. It was as if she had simply evaporated. Friends and family were frantic. Her mother, Patricia, tore through the house searching for anything, notes, messages, a clue, but found nothing. Olivia's father, Samuel, pored over every detail, determined to unravel a mystery that seemed impossible. The police came, took statements, combed the area, but the trail was cold before it had even begun. Rumors spread through the town. Some whispered that Olivia had run away. Others feared the worst. And the silence of her disappearance settled like a heavy fog over everyone who knew her. Detectives at the time worked tirelessly, interviewing friends, coworkers, and neighbors. Every statement was dissected, every lead pursued, but nothing concrete emerged. Her disappearance seemed random, almost hauntingly ordinary in its perplexity. There were no witnesses, no evidence of a struggle, no sign pointing to who could have taken her, or why. The initial investigation, though thorough, was limited by the forensic tools of the era. DNA analysis was in its infancy, and digital trails were barely traceable. Weeks turned into months, and months into years, but Olivia's absence left a wound that never healed. Her parents, friends, and the small community of Raleigh were left grasping for answers that never came, trapped in a limbo of worry and despair. Then, nearly 2 decades later, the case took an unexpected turn. In 2019, a newly formed cold case unit revisited the Mercer files. Detective Claire Reynolds, known for her relentless pursuit of overlooked clues, noticed tiny inconsistencies in witness statements and details that had been dismissed. She ordered a re-examination of every piece of evidence collected in 2001, from Olivia's abandoned handbag to the faint traces of DNA left on a hairbrush that had long been catalogued and forgotten. One hair strand, previously deemed unhelpful, was sent for modern DNA testing. The results stunned the team. A match emerged, one that tied a local man, Gregory Latham, to the scene in ways no one had previously suspected. Suddenly, a cold, stagnant case became a pulse of life, buzzing with new leads and possibilities. This DNA revelation cracked the door open, but it was only the beginning. Detective Reynolds began connecting overlooked details from the original investigation, witness statements that now seemed suspicious, subtle contradictions in alibis, and minor clues that had been dismissed in the chaos of the initial search. Each small piece began forming a chilling picture of a man who had hidden in plain sight for nearly 20 years. Latham, outwardly a quiet mechanic known to neighbors, had lived a life that seemed ordinary. Yet the DNA proved that beneath his unassuming exterior lurked a dark secret. His careful manipulation and calculated evasion had kept him hidden for decades, and now the truth was clawing its way into the light. For the Mercer family, the renewed investigation was both a blessing and a torment. Every new discovery brought hope tempered with fear. Patricia and Samuel had spent years imagining Olivia's fate in the worst ways, and each revelation reopened old wounds. The community, too, stirred with renewed attention, remembering Olivia's warmth, her dedication to patients at the local hospital, and the laughter that had once filled the corridors where she worked. The emotional intensity surrounding the case grew as witnesses who had previously held back began to share what they knew, small details that helped reconstruct the night Olivia vanished. The investigation was transforming from a cold, unsolvable mystery into a tense, unraveling story that gripped everyone who followed it. As the team closed in, the twists became more unnerving. Latham's carefully crafted facade began to crumble under the weight of forensic evidence. He initially denied involvement, then shifted into partial admissions, but the DNA trail and corroborating witness accounts were relentless. Every attempt to mislead investigators failed, revealing a meticulous but ultimately flawed scheme. When authorities finally made the arrest, shock rippled through Raleigh. Residents who had quietly mourned Olivia's disappearance for nearly 2 decades were stunned to see the truth emerge. For her family, the moment was indescribably complex, a mix of grief, relief, anger, and vindication. Years of unanswered questions were finally met with clarity, as meticulous police work and modern technology unraveled the truth that had seemed forever hidden. Detective Reynolds reflected on the gravity of the breakthrough. Olivia Mercer's story was a testament to perseverance, innovation, and the importance of never giving up on the forgotten. Cold cases, often dismissed as hopeless, could still yield justice when science advanced and investigators refused to let time dull their resolve. For the community, Olivia's disappearance and the eventual resolution highlighted the power of persistence, the significance of seemingly minor details, and the unyielding human desire for truth. Her memory became a rallying point, a reminder that even when darkness seems absolute, light can find its way through the cracks. The arrest not only satisfied the long-standing hunger for justice, but also rippled outward, impacting friends, colleagues, and neighbors. The town collectively faced the chilling reality of someone they had known harboring such a dark secret, while also witnessing the painstaking process by which law enforcement had finally unraveled the web of deception. Lessons were learned about the integration of modern forensic methods, the value of cold case units, and the irreplaceable importance of meticulous attention to detail. Olivia's story, once a haunting absence, became a symbol of resilience, hope, and the relentless pursuit of truth that finally returned her to the collective memory of those who had never stopped seeking answers. Her legacy, cemented through the tireless efforts of detectives and the courage of witnesses, served as a blueprint for other long-forgotten cases. The Mercer family, though forever changed, found solace in knowing that the search had not been in vain, and that the man who stole their daughter's future would be held accountable. The case, now a story of human determination and the evolution of forensic science, underscored an undeniable truth. Time cannot erase justice. It only makes it sweeter when it finally arrives. Raleigh, North Carolina, 2019. After nearly 18 years, Olivia Mercer's case was no longer a cold file gathering dust. It had become the center of a storm. Detective Claire Reynolds worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of a life that had been abruptly stolen from the world. Each day brought a new revelation, a new heartbreak, and a new step closer to the truth. The DNA match to Gregory Latham had cracked the case open, but unraveling the full story was a painstaking process. Latham's careful planning and subtle manipulations had allowed him to vanish into obscurity, yet the forensic evidence now cast a long shadow over his carefully curated life. The tension in the investigation was palpable, as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for long overdue justice. Detectives revisited every witness, every statement, and every overlooked piece of evidence. They uncovered small but crucial details. A neighbor who remembered seeing Latham's car parked unusually late at night, a cashier who recalled a tense encounter between him and Olivia days before her disappearance, and fragments of a conversation that suddenly made chilling sense. Each revelation deepened the emotional weight of the case. Patricia and Samuel Mercer sat through interviews, recounting memories of Olivia with tears glistening in their eyes, balancing grief with the hope that justice was finally within reach. The community, once resigned to the mystery, became emotionally invested in every update. The story of a kind, compassionate young nurse stolen from life resonated deeply, and people from every corner of Raleigh offered support, encouragement, and insight. The investigation also revealed the meticulous lengths Latham had gone to in order to evade suspicion. He had lived quietly, maintaining a friendly facade while secretly hiding dark intentions. Evidence showed that he had been planning, observing, and manipulating circumstances to avoid detection. Forensics painted a stark, horrifying picture, Olivia's brief struggle, subtle traces of evidence she had left behind, and Latham's fingerprints that had gone unnoticed in 2001. Modern technology, combined with human persistence, made the invisible visible. DNA testing, digital record analysis, and a careful review of timelines created a mosaic of truth that had been invisible to earlier investigators. Every thread was methodically pulled, unraveling the intricate web Latham had spun and exposing the reality of Olivia's final moments. The psychological toll on Olivia's family was immense. Patricia and Samuel had endured nearly 2 decades of torment, imagining countless scenarios, clinging to hope and battling despair. Now each new discovery reopened old wounds. Seeing evidence of Olivia's struggle, understanding the deception of someone they had seen as a neighbor, a community member, or even a friend was gut-wrenching. Yet the human heart is resilient, and amidst the horror there was an undercurrent of relief. They were finally on the path to answers. The detectives guided them through the process, balancing sensitivity with the need to confront the raw realities. Emotional highs and lows alternated as old memories resurfaced, and the town collectively felt the weight of these revelations. Interviews with Latham became increasingly tense. Initially calm, his demeanor shifted as investigators confronted him with DNA evidence and witness testimonies. The man who had lived quietly in plain sight for nearly 2 decades was visibly shaken. Latham's denials fractured under the relentless pressure, and investigators sensed a breakthrough was imminent. Small admissions, initially brushed off, began to form a horrifyingly coherent timeline of Olivia's abduction. Forensic specialists worked in tandem with detectives to recreate the night she vanished, identifying the subtle movements, decisions, and concealments that had kept her story hidden. The town followed every development with rapt attention, a community emotionally invested in seeing justice realized. The final pieces of the puzzle were particularly striking. Investigators discovered that Latham had attempted to cover his tracks meticulously. He destroyed evidence, misled acquaintances, and manipulated public perception to appear innocent. But every lie had a flaw, every manipulation left a trace, and technology had evolved to reveal those flaws. This revelation was not just a triumph of forensic science. It was a lesson in human perseverance and the importance of never discounting seemingly minor clues. The tension in the case became almost unbearable as the arrest loomed. Every interview, every trace of evidence, every newly uncovered memory pushed the narrative closer to its climax. When authorities finally prepared for arrest, the emotional weight was profound. The Mercer family experienced a storm of emotions: grief for the years lost, relief that the perpetrator would finally face justice, and a lingering sorrow for a daughter whose life had been stolen. Neighbors and friends gathered in hushed anticipation, reflecting on their own memories of Olivia, her laughter, her warmth, her dedication to the hospital, and her unwavering kindness. The arrest was not just a procedural milestone. It was a moment of collective catharsis, a turning point for a community scarred by unanswered questions and prolonged uncertainty. Latham's arrest sent shockwaves through Raleigh. The realization that a trusted, familiar face could harbor such darkness was profoundly unsettling. For detectives, it was a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth, the importance of patience, and the power of modern forensic methods. Each member of the team, from lead investigators to lab technicians, felt the magnitude of their achievement. The emotional resonance of the case extended beyond the courtroom, touching neighbors, colleagues, and anyone who had followed Olivia's story. The narrative of a missing young nurse had transformed into a saga of perseverance, justice, and the ultimate triumph of human tenacity. As preparations for the trial began, the story of Olivia Mercer became emblematic of the progress in forensic science and cold case investigations. Detectives documented every step meticulously, understanding the importance of their work not just for this case, but for others that remained unresolved. The Mercer family found a delicate balance between mourning and hope, realizing that even after years of silence, the truth could emerge. Witnesses who had felt powerless in the early days found empowerment in sharing what they knew. The town collectively absorbed the gravity of the revelations, acknowledging both the horror of the crime and the resilience of those seeking justice. Olivia's story, once a haunting void in the lives of her loved ones, was now evolving into a narrative of resilience and accountability. The discovery of the truth, the arrest of Latham, and the meticulous reconstruction of events showcased the transformative power of technology, determination, and unwavering human spirit. While the wounds would never fully heal, the path toward justice offered a measure of solace and closure. Detective Reynolds emphasized that every small detail, every overlooked clue, and every moment of persistence had contributed to an outcome that had once seemed impossible. Olivia Mercer's disappearance, long shrouded in mystery, was now a beacon of hope for other families navigating the harrowing uncertainty of cold cases. The town, forever changed by the revelations, absorbed lessons that would echo through the years: the importance of community vigilance, the power of modern forensic science, and the irreplaceable value of never abandoning the search for truth. Olivia's memory, once marked by absence and sorrow, now stood as a testament to courage, perseverance, and justice. The investigation demonstrated that even when darkness stretches for decades, the relentless pursuit of evidence, truth, and accountability can finally illuminate what was once hidden. The rain had slowed to a drizzle over Elmwood, North Carolina, on the morning of March 12, 2001, when officers quietly approached the modest townhouse on Maple Street. The neighborhood had remained unchanged for decades: white picket fences, trimmed lawns, and the faint aroma of baked bread drifting from kitchen windows. Inside, Gregory Latham, the man whose name had remained absent from suspicion for nearly 20 years, sipped coffee as if nothing about his ordinary life had been pierced by suspicion. He was 52 now, salt and pepper hair, an impeccable suit, and a calm demeanor that masked the darkness investigators had long suspected. Detective Elise Harper, who had pieced together Olivia Mercer's cold case through patient examination of forensic evidence, led the team. The DNA match from a cigarette butt discarded near the crime scene 2 decades prior had finally identified Latham as the source, but officers' new arrests required careful planning. He had remained a respected member of the Elmwood community, Sunday school teacher, PTA treasurer, and trusted neighbor. Many had celebrated his charity work without realizing the shadows he hid. When Harper knocked on the door, Latham opened it with a faint smile. "Can I help you?" he asked. The officers stepped inside, presenting the arrest warrant with precise wording that left no ambiguity. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Latham's expression shifted imperceptibly, a flicker of recognition, then the practiced calm. He set his coffee down, turned slowly, and extended his wrists. "I suppose this was inevitable," he said, voice soft, almost resigned. As officers led him outside, neighbors peeked through blinds, murmuring in disbelief. The man they waved to at community events, the one who had led fundraisers, now faced charges for a crime that had silenced Olivia Mercer for 20 years. At the police station, Olivia's parents, Carol and Martin Mercer, were informed immediately. Their hands trembled as they clutched each other's arms. Carol's eyes brimmed with tears as she whispered, "It's him, it's really him." 2 decades of unanswered questions, quiet heartbreak, and suppressed rage had finally converged into this single moment. During the preliminary interrogation, Latham was calm but evasive. He acknowledged being near the Mercer residence on the evening of March 3, 2001, but denied any wrongdoing. Investigators presented forensic findings: fibers from his home matching strands found under Olivia's fingernails, fingerprints preserved on a broken window latch, and most damning, the DNA from the cigarette butt conclusively tying him to the crime scene. The evidence was overwhelming, but investigators knew they needed his confession to ensure closure for the Mercer family and the community. The breakthrough came unexpectedly 3 days later. Alone in the interrogation room, Confronted with a detailed timeline and all physical evidence, Latham's composed facade began to crumble. I I didn't plan for this," he murmured, voice shaking. He described a moment of obsession, a dangerous fixation on Olivia that escalated into violence when she resisted his advances. "I thought I could control it. I never wanted her gone," he admitted. Every word, every hesitation painted a portrait of a man who had hidden his depravity behind decades of charm and community service. For Carol and Martin Mercer, hearing the confession was both devastating and liberating. 2 decades of nightmares, wondering who had taken their daughter, now had answers, albeit grim ones. The community reaction was immediate and intense. News of Latham's confession spread through Elmwood like wildfire. Neighbors who had shared meals, exchanged greetings, and celebrated milestones with him now felt betrayed, their trust shattered. Candlelight vigils were held in Olivia's honor, this time not for hope, but for remembrance and finality. At the courthouse, the trial drew extraordinary attention. Prosecutor Hannah Sinclair meticulously presented the forensic evidence, the confession, and witness testimonies about Latham's peculiar behavior leading up to the crime. Defense attorneys attempted to highlight his community contributions, painting him as a man of character who had made a grievous mistake. The jury, however, was unmoved by his decades of civic engagement. The timeline of events, corroborated by DNA, fibers, and historical witness accounts, created a narrative too precise to ignore. On the fourth day, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all charges. Latham was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, the Mercer family held a press conference. Carol spoke, her voice raw but steady. "Nothing can bring Olivia back, but the truth has finally freed us from the torment of not knowing. Justice is not just a word, it's a promise fulfilled, even if belatedly." The case reverberated beyond Elmwood. Law enforcement agencies across the country took note of the power of preserved forensic evidence combined with modern DNA analysis. The successful resolution of Olivia Mercer's case encouraged reviews of other cold cases, providing hope to families who had lived with uncertainty for decades. Detective Elise Harper, reflecting on the years of investigation, noted, "Patience, persistence, and science gave Olivia a voice long after it was taken from her. This is a testament to the fact that no crime is too old for truth to surface." The town of Elmwood, scarred yet resilient, began the slow process of healing. Streets once lined with whispers and suspicion gradually regained a sense of cautious normalcy. Memorials were established in Olivia's honor, scholarships in her name created for young students pursuing science and art, and the story of her case became a touchstone for the importance of community vigilance and the relentless pursuit of justice. 2 decades of silence, fear, and grief concluded with a hard-earned truth. The man who hid in plain sight, whose face had been trusted in classrooms and community halls, was held accountable, and the legacy of Olivia Mercer became one of courage, remembrance, and the transformative power of modern forensic science. For families still waiting for answers, her story became a beacon. Patience and persistence, combined with unyielding dedication to truth, can turn decades of uncertainty into closure, ensuring that victims, no matter how long silenced, finally have their story told.